All right, you guys voted for it. We're gonna be. It's destiny season. Every time politics happens, it's destiny season. You know, because really, who better to get informed? Honestly, it's a real question. He could be a little bit of a gooner, but he's a smart guy. So, anyways, Destiny on Piers Morgan. They're debating about Trump. Not a particular fan of Trump. Not a particular fan of Kamala, but at least she's not anti-American. So, let's just get this party started, man. Let's get it going.
Trump is more popular in his personal approval rating right now than he's ever been in his entire 8-year political career.
Donald Trump's a 4-year-old when it comes to understanding any issue, but especially foreign policy. The United States economy is outperforming every other economy in the world right now under Biden's policies that ostensibly Harris will continue.
Trump actually tried to pull out of Syria, which he had campaigned on.
But he didn't said he doesn't respect the Constitution. They all consistently
No, I'm not saying, okay, fine. They don't respect the Constitution. We were in Syria unconstitutionally.
I feel like I should be your mother and just shut you guys up. You don't think that Biden
Ooh, I remember her from the popular video, Who's Nailing Palin? Incredible. It's my favorite one.
Higher under Biden than Trump.
And you just
Is energy production higher, Sarah Palin? It's a very simple question. I know facts are not your strong point. Is energy production higher today under Biden than under Trump? It's a simple yes or no question.
You're an obnoxious.
I'm obnoxious. You're a racist. You want to play that game?
There is just over a week to go in one of the most consequential elections in American history, and both campaigns are finishing big rallies.
Kamala, you're fired. Get out, get out.
We are going to fight for the country we love.
Big names.
His obvious mental decline, his history as a convicted felon.
Yeah, I've been seeing the Obama stepping in, which I'm kind of surprised about, you know. But hey, you know what? I guess you got to do what you got to do. Trump is that bad, so. What's happening right now? Oh, I actually muted it.
Dog.
Decline his history as a convicted felon.
True.
I'm dog.
Big audiences.
Wow. I always got more publicity than other people. I don't know exactly why. You said a lot of wild.
Well, you do that. You know how to get publicity. What's he talking
about?
Maybe. Big claims.
And not having a president of the United States who admires dictators and is a fascist.
As the candidates make their closing arguments, Uncensored is in New York City for a big debate. Well, from New York City, I'm Piers Morgan, Uncensored, of course, and I brought together a fascinating...
He's in New York? Oh my God, I can't wait to see him. Just kidding.
...panel to debate really where we are with this US presidential race. Last night was this incredible rally at Madison Square Garden. I was there, first time I've been to a Trump rally, or any political rally for that matter, and it was a fascinating experience.
What does that mean, Piers? What does that mean? Because I remember I watched some, I watched a few, like I watched, what is that guy, Tony from Kill Tony on there. You know, he's generally a funny guy. But, like, I don't think that the jokes that he was making have any place for, like, politics. Like, you really shouldn't be making those types of I don't know. I don't know. It's embarrassing, in my opinion, for the Trump campaign to even, like, have him on in the first place, considering that. But
it'd be interesting to see what my panelists have to say about that. But the bottom line, we're 8 days from one of the most consequential elections in American history. And I want to spend the next hour with 4 very opinionated people with different opinions to thrash out the big picture, themes of where we are with this race, and more importantly, who's going to win. And should they win? So let me introduce them. First of all, former Governor Sarah Palin. You were former Governor of Alaska, and you're the Vice Presidential nominee, of course, in the 2008 McCain-Obama election. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Mehdi Hasan.
I don't even know why she's here. I don't even understand. I haven't seen her in so long. It's wild.
Chief of Zateo News. Mehdi, great to see you again.
I wasn't kidding, though. Like, when she was running for president, or vice president, excuse me, there was, like, a whole, like, we'll say, there was a Hub parody where I think, what was her name? I don't even know the name of the person. Was it Lisa Ann? I shouldn't know that. It was wild. All right, I shouldn't be talking about this.
Dave Smith, Libertarian commentator.
That's next level goonery.
Host of the Part of the Problem podcast. Good to see you. And Destiny, streamer and political commentator. So 4 big...
Well, that was a short introduction.
...names, big beasts in the punditry jungle. Brought you all together. Sarah, you were at the...
I'm reading the TikTok chat a little bit, but mostly the YouTube chat.
...rally last night.
Yes.
What was it like for you?
It was an electric environment. Most of Trump's rallies are like that, though.
I'm surprised that she's supporting of Trump. I mean, is she even a career politician anymore? Because I know that conservatives are afraid to speak against Trump. They're like afraid they're gonna like, get their career ruined and be called like a rhino and everything, and lose everything. So I get that. But there are some McCain, who she ran with, right? He had the balls to actually call him out, which was pretty cool.
You know, just so much energy and
it was Lisa Ann. You asked your brother. I asked somebody else too that question. I didn't even know.
Just a lot of enthusiasm. Last night, I think the biggest surprise though was outside of the arena, how much enthusiasm you could feel out there with all the red hats and all the New Yorkers who were so bold and courageous coming out for him.
No protesters.
So why are they bold? New Yorkers bold and courageous? New Yorkers are annoying, and I know that because I'm a New Yorker.
Secret Service told me 150 people turned up to protest. And all I could think was, back in 2016, I remember tens of thousands of people marching around the streets of Manhattan in fury about Trump. Where did they go?
Right. So I think that was the big difference. It was just in terms of a positive environment. It was so much.
I think they just have things to do, man. They got work.
Positivity, and like you say, the protesters seem to be non-existent. I don't know if they chickened out or what, or they just didn't have it organized.
I don't know, man. Part of me feels like it's not even worth interacting with Trump anymore. He's just a psychopath. Thank you for the $2 on YouTube. That one guy. Josh on my UA till I block. I don't even. Oh, Joshua block. Got it. Took me a while.
Or however they usually roll, but yeah, they weren't there.
What do you say to those who this morning have woken up to headlines in the New York Post and many other media outlets saying it was, the nearest thing to 1939 all over again, but also specifically latching onto the comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who told what I thought was some extremely lame and defensive excuses for jokes about.
I mean, I think the jokes are. I don't really care about the jokes. I saw them. There were a lot of anti-Puerto Rican jokes. I don't care about the jokes. I just don't understand why that's at a political rally. That is insane. That they would invite that to a political rally because that they knew he was going to make these jokes. That's inappropriate. It's not a time or a place for it.
About Puerto Ricans, about Latinos, like he told some about Jewish people and so on. None of it seemed to work. He was the first one out as a speaker. And of course, all it did was allow people who hate Trump, particularly in the media, to say, well, look, this is what we warned you about. This is what this is all about.
Yeah, that's completely fair, though. That's completely fair for you to say that. Because they knew he was going to make those offensive jokes. That's why they had him on.
What do you say to people that say that?
It was Hillary Clinton who made that general accusation, the false accusation that anybody who was going to show up there at the rally was, a Nazi or Nazi sympathizer.
Well, that's obviously not true. If you're supporting of Trump, you're not like a Nazi or a Nazi sympathizer. You could be, but I don't think that you are. I think that you are either like a conspiracy theorist, or you decide to be willfully ignorant and not understand how bad Trump is. And specifically when it came to him trying to, stage an insurrection on the government. That's the bigger one. Pushing a conspiracy theory so long, riling people up to attack the Capitol, breaking in with, riot shields he stole from police. But the biggest thing is not doing anything about it when it happened, and instead using that as an opportunity to try to get your vice president to take 7 faulty electors. That's the part that gets me more than anything else, is that he didn't call the National Guard in. And he tried to use it as an opportunity to steal the election. So to me, it seems like he actually wanted it to happen. So,
and I think she incentivized a lot of us, me personally, to get there, to be there present, to prove her wrong, to prove that, oh gosh, here's another lie, here's another mischaracterization of who Trump supporters are. So no, there was no hint of what had happened back in.
It's unfortunate because you can't really belittle Trump supporters because they're people, they're stupid people. But you really can't belittle them because you have to try to reach out to the other side for people, I don't know, who are just not really living in reality. It's very unfortunate. And some of them don't want to live in reality. Even my conservative mother is yeah, this is pretty fucked up. She doesn't even want to vote for Trump. That's how I know. Normal conservatives, I like to think, aren't, guzzling Trump.
1939. Hillary, too, forgets that she was at one of those rallies. Her husband's rally was held in Madison Square Garden also. She certainly didn't ascribe to herself and to her husband that same false accusation.
Well, no, but why would they? He didn't try to overthrow the government.
Mehdi, I'm sure you agree with every word that Sarah Palin's just said. I can't think of two more kindred political spirits.
If I take Governor Palin's point about going to prove something wrong, the problem is we weren't proved wrong. That rally could have proved us wrong. Donald Trump could have run a rally, and the Republican Party could have done a rally and said, what are you talking about? What a fake liberal accusation. Instead, they just served up line after line of hate, and that's the problem. Trump is who he says he is. MAGA is what we think it is. So when you tune into the rally, I wasn't there, thankfully, but when I tune in and see what was said, you just have to listen. You mentioned some of it. Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage. Black people like to cut up watermelons, not pumpkins, on Halloween. Jews are stingy.
Jesus, how I didn't know I only saw a couple of the Puerto Rican comments. I just don't understand why have that at your rally. Why would you want that type of representation? I don't get it. I wonder if it's just for media attention.
Indians are terrorists, effing illegals.
His argument, Mr. Hinchcliffe, is
one of those is true, but you have to guess which one.
Thank you for the $5 from that one guy on YouTube. You watched the Trump JRE yet? Interesting to to hear him talk in a calmer environment. Yeah, I watched it. I reacted to it. It was pathetic from Joe.
Kamala Harris is surrounded by pimp handlers. She's the Antichrist and the devil, right? The neo-Nazi great replacement theory. Immigrants are being brought to replace us. And that's all before Trump even took the stage. That's just the warm-up act.
What's the point I was going to make? I was there. It was 6 hours. I would say that the offensive bits that you're talking about, some of them were clearly not intended the way they were, some were. And I would throw it back at you.
No, you don't.
I reckon if you had 6 hours right now of Kamala Harris and her people talking about Trump, it wouldn't take them long before they're into he's the new Hitler.
Okay,
and on the scale of
this is desperate stuff even by your standards. I was at the DNC, I sat for 6 hours in a very uncomfortable seat. People did not make racist remarks. Let me finish. You interrupted
No,
my
I'm
point.
asking you a question.
Go on.
You've got a chance after this. We'll do one for you. But my point is, it wouldn't be long before the Hitler stuff comes out. And honestly, on a scale of offence, calling someone the new Hitler, isn't that actually worse than anything else?
First of all, I was at the...
I mean, if your rally has a bunch of people making minority jokes and you try to overthrow the government, you question our greatest president ever, Obama's legitimacy of his citizenship. I mean, like, at what point do we go like, yeah, this guy, I mean, I wouldn't say Hitler. That's quite intense, but he's the closest politician I've seen to that. I don't know what to tell you.
DNC, I sat there 6 hours every night in a very uncomfortable seat. Nobody called Donald Trump Hitler from the stage. So your argument falls apart. Let's talk about what actually happened last night. The governor can do whataboutism. I don't know why you're doing the whataboutism. Let's talk about what happened last night.
Well, let
me finish my point. Before Trump even got on stage, we had the Puerto Ricans, the Jews, the Palestinians, effing illegals, pimp handlers, antichrist. That was all there. Then Trump gets on stage and says immigrants are invading and occupying our country, which is the language of the far right. He talks about the press being the enemy of the people, which is straight from Goebbels. You've condemned that line. He talked about the enemy within, which is literally a Hitler line. So if you don't want to be accused of sounding like Nazis, there's a simple solution. Stop talking like Nazis.
Dave?
All right. I don't know. I think the whole Nazi comparison is really tired and played out. And by the way, I also think, like, when Trump calls Kamala Harris a communist, I don't think that really hits home. I think all this stuff is kind of silly hyperbole. I also, look, I'm good friends with Tony Hinchcliffe, so well, I'm just stating my bias.
So talk to me about his act. His argument, I saw him tweeting, saying, well, I had to go at everybody, I was joking.
Well, look, this is what Tony does. And so...
Well, yeah, I don't really blame Tony for it. I don't know why. Like, he never should have been there in the first place. He never should have gotten invited. That's what they wanted from him. But they never should have invited him. It's a fucking presidential rally. Why are you having somebody make extraordinarily edgy jokes, incredibly divisive jokes at the rally? Like, I don't really care about him as much as I care about the other, as much as I care about the fact that they would even invite him in the first place.
So, like, if you want to argue with me that you don't think it's appropriate to put, like, an edgy comedian at the beginning of your political rally, fine. But I don't think it's fair to, like, lump all those things together as...
Well, it's not. That's a big deal. I don't understand what happened to us not wanting a bit of fucking decorum in our in our political landscape. Like, why? I don't understand.
If they were in a serious speech, clearly the guy was making jokes, and if you don't like that, that's fine.
Well, just to be clear, I mean, jokes, people can use jokes as dog whistles to, like, communicate real points. It can be a vehicle. Like, him making jokes doesn't mean that he's not, like, an anti-immigrant person. I don't know if he is an anti-immigrant person. I'm just saying, just to say, like, well, they were just jokes, it's no big deal. That's not really like, we know that that's not how these work. So
quoted was not just from Tony Hinchcliffe. It was Trump's childhood friend who called Kamala the Antichrist.
My point is that you were mixing in what the comedian said with what other people said. So I think they should be viewed differently. I do think that there is Donald Trump has found a way, since he entered politics in 2016, to do something that's very unconventional that nobody else in politics is really doing, which is that he makes his events entertainment. He makes them comedy. When people come out to see Donald Trump, it's a different feeling than just listening to a policy speech.
That's why, I mean,
you may like that or not like that, but I do think that and it's almost like after 8 years of this, if the response from Trump critics is, you're Hitler, that's just not hitting home, because whatever it is that people are seeing, that's not it.
No, I mean, it's a show. I mean, I called him, he's the Mick Jagger of politics in the sense that Jagger's 80, Trump's 78. It is a show. You turn up to about 30 speakers of increasing celebrity status. It was like being at a big music festival where the band gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Then you're into J.D. Vance and Elon Musk and Melania Trump, and then the big one, the headline act, on comes the big rock star. That's how he does this. Yeah. That's his old television hat on, understanding entertainment. And Madison Square Garden, of course, is an iconic venue. It's the heart of Manhattan. It's the place where you would least expect to see a Republican rally. And at one stage last night, every single network, main network and cable network in America, was taking it live, including many of your old employees, MSNBC, who vowed not to take any of his rallies. For $1 million, which is what it cost him to rent that venue, he's getting about $100 million worth of publicity. That's got to be good politics. Never mind anything else.
Oh, I think so. I mean, if you're just, like, analyzing it in terms of, like, whether it helped him or hurt him, there's something powerful about going into your opponent's territory, selling out a big arena, and getting that type of press. So in that sense, I think it was politically a win for Donald Trump.
Destiny, where are we with this race? Because the polling suggests that it's a knife edge, too close to call. But if I'm a Democrat looking at the swing state polling in particular, I'm pretty nervous right now.
I think as an American, I'm pretty nervous. It feels like they're...
Yeah, I'll say that, man. It wouldn't be a particularly good thing if Trump gets the presidency. If he hadn't tried to instruct the government, his policies are still dog shit. Like, he's really not a very good president. I mean, the best thing he ever did was cut taxes when we didn't need to cut taxes, when the economy was already doing well under Obama, after Obama brought us out of like the worst recession since the Great Depression. And he did that just to appease people rather than trying to like get us into a positive situation to pay off our debts. Right, that's what like should have happened, and he didn't do that. That's what he needed to do, but he didn't do that. But like whatever, that's pretty much it. He denied like a border wall legislation. He didn't do anything to the Affordable Care Act, even though he promised. He really didn't do anything. Trump was a very ineffective president. But like I wouldn't have cared until the whole insurrecting the government thing. That's the one that really gets me. So we're at a point now where like, yeah, I am worried. If you're willing to do shit like that, I mean, that's pretty fucking insane to me. That's not like a small deal. That's a huge deal.
There is just like a totally different standard that both sides can play by. It's really funny listening to the idea that one statement in a 6-hour entire rally, can't be used to convict Trump or his campaign or the rally. Meanwhile, when it comes to Democrats, you guys will pick out like one line from somebody, and that will be fair to characterize their entire speech. They're absolutely not as bad as each other. Because the difference is that while Trump will have
in terms of picking out lines from lengthy speeches, I think both sides play that game equally.
Yeah, but the problem is somebody will pick out, say, the Biden line where he talks about MAGA Americans, and then when you read the speech immediately after, he goes, not all Republicans are MAGA Americans. It's a minority of the party. It's just these people that deny, for instance, the election outcome, right? He'll specify, he'll clarify. Whereas for Trump, you can pick out lines, and these lines are not only consistent with everything else that he says, they're consistent with the policy that he advocates for and tried to pass in government. We're living in two completely and totally separate worlds where the standards for both sides are just out of this world.
So why is it that he may win? After everything that happened in the first term, after the way it ended, after the fact he was dead and buried really 2 years ago. I mean, I remember Ron DeSantis being way ahead in the polling to be a Republican nominee.
Yeah, before he ever talked to a single voter.
Right, but obviously but actually you could chart Trump's recovery was when the Justice Department started going after him in all sorts of different legal actions, and that is when you can see Trump's popularity starting to go up.
I totally disagree. It started to go up when he started to be more active in campaigning.
But he went out to defend himself against all the legal charges.
He hasn't defended himself against any legal charge, to be clear. His defense is, I need criminal immunity. That's his defense. There was nothing he didn't deny a single thing.
Yeah, I mean, he is getting criminal immunity from the Supreme Court that he was able to stack, so that's true.
He didn't say anything didn't happen. He said, I need criminal immunity from the things I'm being charged with. I can't possibly commit crimes.
Nobody has more aggressively defended themselves against criminal charges than Trump.
Name one defense. What's the defense for the Mar-a-Lago thing? What's the defense for the conspiracy to overturn the election
thing? You're conflating what I mean by defense with your idea of defense.
My idea of defense is like you say, this is why I didn't commit a crime. No, I did commit a crime and I need immunity. Like immunity by definition legally is not a defense.
But in relation to the one that he's actually being convicted of, I still think it was an absolute farce and a woeful act of self-harm by the Democrats who...
What is he talking about specifically?
Fuel this to go after Trump first for a bit of paper shuffling over paying a porn star off for a fling 18 years ago.
I mean, there's two conversations you can have here. The conversation number one is like optically, it's probably a bad play because people probably don't care that much about Trump using campaign funds or whatever to hire a prostitute. On the other hand, it's just not right or legal, and you should probably go after people for doing things that are wrong. Right. So, if they did it for an optics play, maybe that wasn't the best bet, but not everything needs to be an optics play. Sometimes we could just do the right thing for the sake of doing the right thing.
He denies ever having.
How many months did we have Hillary Clinton's emails being the front and center story for the news? How much did we hear about Hunter Biden and his cock and his crack addiction or whatever? Who's, by the way, still not
How can Bill Clinton, when he was actually president of the United States, have sex with an intern in the Oval Office and then lie about it to the American people? And it's not him that gets dragged through a criminal court. It's Trump over a fling with a porn star 18 years ago.
Hold on, and I could be wrong because I'm younger. I'm only 35.
I don't think he used money for that, though.
Okay. My understanding is that Bill Clinton was impeached in the House, and that Bill Clinton was.
But he was never criminally charged.
And then because he didn't. I don't think he
didn't commit anything. He didn't commit a criminal act, so of course
committed necessarily a crime. I think
he paid off Paula Jones $850,000.
They're not even.
Oh, did he? Shit, maybe maybe I'm wrong.
Close. Bill Clinton is disgraced. No. Bill Clinton is disgraced in the Republican Party, and Donald Trump is the hero of the Republican Party.
That's
They're remotely similar to how the parties treat them.
Yeah, Bill Clinton's a Democrat. And
this is one about the time I'm not seeing. We're doing Bill Clinton now?
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I don't really care that Donald Trump had sex with a porn star. It means absolutely nothing to me. That's not even on my radar for why I don't like him. So, just be clear.
Yeah, I am very much
talk about Bill Clinton. Did he overturn an election? Did he send a mob to the Capitol to overturn an election?
I just told you what he did.
No, but I'm asking you what he did compared to Trump.
Well, he had sex with an intern in the Oval Office and then lied about it to the American people. Do you not think?
Yeah, that's very American to do, though. That's kind of a based in American thing to do. trying to overthrow the government, not so based, not so American.
I think that's important.
Yes, I was against Bill Clinton. You picked the wrong guy. I was never a fan of Bill Clinton. Nice try. Try again. Let's talk about Trump. I tried to overturn an election. He's not been tried for it. Do you think it's right, Piers, as someone who objected to the insurrection, that he's going into election in 8 days? You asked Destiny, why is he still doing so well? Because he was never tried. You want to talk about the DOJ? I think the DOJ is an embarrassment. I wish they'd gone after him. They didn't go after him because he's going into an election having not seen the inside of a courtroom. For Georgia, for DC, we heard him commit a crime on tape, Piers. You heard him. You heard him say to Brad Raffensperger, find me the votes. If you had done that, I'd done that. We'd be in prison right now. We wouldn't be running for re-election. That is the reality. The American people never got to hear in court all of the charges against him. You saw the Jack Smith indictment.
Just so I'm clear on this here,
Yeah.
and forget how you. Okay, Trump's guilty of all these crimes, whatever. When you're asking why is he getting so much support, your honest theory is that if he had just been prosecuted more, then his people would have turned against him.
No, his argument has nothing to do with the optics of it. The argument is like he should be prosecuted because he did a wrong thing.
It's not monocausal. There's many reasons he's doing well.
Okay, then one of the causes.
Democrats have run a bad campaign. Gaza is a factor, etc., etc.
Sure. Lots of
The
factors.
media doesn't know how to cover this stuff. But yes, clearly.
You think it would have hurt him with his supporters had he
Not
been
with his
tried
supporters,
for
but we know
insurrection,
nothing
inciting an
hurts him with his
insurrection?
supporters. I've given up on his supporters. We're talking about the people who actually are persuadable. Yes. When was he most unpopular, Dave, in his entire life? On January 7th, 2021. So yeah, America is a country of amnesiacs. I can say that as an American and an immigrant. People just go memory hole everything Trump did.
For a whole year, they've gone after him legally, and right now Trump is more popular.
And every time it's made him more popular.
Right,
every single
Trump
time.
is more popular.
Yeah, who cares about the optics play of this thing? What he's doing is wrong. I think that's all that really matters.
His personal approval rating right now than he's ever been in his entire 8-year political career. How can that be happening if it isn't actually a lot of Americans going, this is absurd?
And if we're going to play the polls game, all the polls show that he's actually, the American people think he should be prosecuted.
I think that people are just desensitized to it. I think part of it's that Trump has pushed an idea that everything's a conspiracy theory when people go after him. But then also part of it is that people are just sort of sensitized and they just don't care about this kind of stuff anymore.
Okay, sir.
Trump supporters recognize that it is not Donald J. Trump a person who is to be supported. It's what he represents. The Trump train that
Like anti-American traitor sentiment? What?
So aggressively moving forward with great intention for this country. We recognize it's what is represented on that. It's all about freedom. It's all about not
What freedom?
allowing our country to be fundamentally transformed, as Barack Obama had promised he and his ilk that they would do to America. He said that back in 2008. We recognizing we don't need a fundamental transformation of America. We need a restoration of all that's good about America.
What is the freedom that Donald Trump represents?
Yeah, I don't understand.
And that is what Trump...
Taking away people's freedom to actually vote by trying to get faulty electors to vote against the will of the people? What are you talking about?
Well, that's an interesting question.
Is it the freedom to not have an abortion, to have a police officer looking over you when you go to get tested for pregnancy? Is it the freedom to have a president that lives above criminal prosecution? Is it the freedom to have tariffs related to every single product that we might import into the country? What is the freedom?
We'll take one freedom that he is quite adamant about, because the majority of Americans are adamant about, and that's our Second Amendment rights.
I'm sorry, how much anti-gun legislation or executive action did Biden do? And then compare that to Trump. Biden did nothing. Trump banned bump stocks, so that's an auto loss for you. What's the next?
Well, let's talk about Kamala and her position.
Okay.
Are you saying
She's like a career like cop. I feel like cops like guns, no?
Kamala, or are you saying Kamala?
I say Kamala, because
I think it's Kamala, isn't it? I really don't remember the correct way to say it, but
I don't see any point in deliberately mispronouncing her name.
Like Trump does every single time he speaks.
Well,
Still
I don't want
Barack Hussein
to
Obama.
Yeah, Hussein, yeah.
And they called him the new Hitler, so all's fair in love and war.
Excuse me, but also, didn't Trump try to accuse
before,
Obama of not being born in the United States? Wasn't that his entrance into politics? Again, it's not just what he says, it's what he does.
yeah, I mean, which is extraordinarily racist. Obama is American, so.
Just asking questions. And even
It's so funny that people are like, why do people say that Trump is racist? And we always point to like the, 100 other things, border this, border that. Like, why don't we just start with him denying that Barack Obama was an American? Like, that is racist. What else is there? What else? What else is there? I don't understand.
Arpaio came out with the birth certificate. They said, no apology for that.
Okay, so you asked about the freedoms
when you're called a Nazi,
when you're called a
They called Obama a communist for 8 years. Oh my goodness.
You're obsessed with this one point. It's all you have.
It's quite a big point because you're
It's
comparing.
not because Trump calls
Didn't
Harris a
Trump say
fascist.
immigrants were the poisonous to the blood of the nation or whatever?
You're comparing Trump to the most evil person in modern
First of all,
history,
J.D. Vance
who
did that.
murdered 12 million
I don't know
people,
Destiny, as I can't
who
speak for
perpetrated a
Destiny.
Holocaust of
I've not called
6
Trump
million.
Hitler. The only person I know who's called Trump Hitler is his running mate, J.D. Vance.
And his last
It's so funny because I feel like JD Vance can actually be like a decent guy if he just wasn't running with Trump. Like, he seems like an intelligent guy. Honestly, out of the four of them, he's the most articulate of any of them. He seems to be the most intelligent out of any of them, to be absolutely honest with you. Like, JD Vance seems like not a bad guy. Like, he is a bad guy. He seems like a effective guy. He seems like he could be likable. He's charismatic. He seems decently intelligent. He just, I mean, he's running defense for a fucking insurrectionist.
General
also
fascist.
Oh yeah, his last general, by the way, his top general says he's a fascist.
These are the people that work the closest
His chief
to
of
him.
staff says he praised Hitler. Should we go down the list?
Well, he didn't praise Hitler.
Do you know more about Trump? I know you're friends with him.
He said he would like to have had the loyalty of Hitler's
That's
generals.
not true. He said that's not true, Piers. Let's be some facts. He said,
don't
quote,
even know
he said,
if he
quote,
said that or not.
Hitler did some good things, is what he said.
He
Do you agree with
denies
that?
He denies saying that.
Oh,
Like
Trump
they were
denies
good
it.
to Charlottesville rally.
How do you know he did?
Piers, you trust Donald
Bro, if there's anybody else that had this like much of a laundry list of like horrific things that they've said or done, I don't know who would be running defense for this.
Trump over General John Kelly. Just say that to the world. I want to hear you say it.
Possibly on that,
Not possibly, do you? Yes
It's
or
been
no?
denied
So
by
Trump-
other people who were in the
Trump
room.
lies
But other
in
people
every breath.
Other people. I don't.
Yeah, if it was like Vance running, I think I would probably not vote Republican. But I could see why people would vote Republican. You know what I mean? Like this is like I really like. It's specifically Trump. It could have been anybody else. And I'd be like, yeah, I understand. Like, we're kind of voting for our differences in opinion. But not under Trump, man. Not under Trump. It's not a difference of opinion. Like he is an anti-American insurrectionist.
Dispute that he has a problem with the truth. but I would say that other people who were in the room at the time say he never said it.
So let's just be clear. All of the top generals and military people who worked with him: Mark Milley, John Kelly, Jim Mattis, H.R. McMaster.
They're all fired,
Mark
right?
Esper. None of them were fired, actually. No, McMaster quit. Mattis quit. Kelly quit. So you're wrong again,
That's the
Piers.
deep
Piers,
state. That's
facts about it, Piers. I know you're pushing.
When you say
top
quit, what do you
talking
mean? They
points. Literally
quit
walked away.
or they were forced away?
No. Let me finish because you're getting this all wrong. I know you get your talking points from Fox these days. Well, you did. You said something from Fox. John Kelly walked
I
away.
sit in my liberal chair when I do the fight.
John Kelly walked away, and Trump praised
I gotta
him.
say, because Pierce is getting like thoroughly embarrassed here, but I can still appreciate Pierce. I kind of like Piers Morgan. I like him a little bit.
On the way out, Mattis walked away. Trump praised him on the way out. The only time Trump started criticizing them is when they pointed out stuff that he had said to them. So all these generals are lying, and Donald Trump, a man who has problems with the truth, to use your phrase, is telling the truth. Come on, Piers, it's embarrassing.
Well, Victor,
What you offer this
listen,
to them.
I tend to agree with you. I don't know. I don't trust Donald Trump for sure. But even like I know a little bit about your politics.
I hate when people that are like these people that pretend they're like Trump guzzlers, but they'll pretend that they're reasonable by saying, "Well, I don't really like him, but maybe he does lie." It's a big deal. It's the president. I don't understand. Why are we holding a president to such a low standard? I mean, you even see it when they'll constantly like, oh, so George Floyd was a good guy. The Democrats championed George Floyd, but Donald Trump's a bad guy for saying X, Y, Z. George Floyd wasn't president, okay? He probably wasn't that great of a guy. He was still murdered by a police officer, though, which is wrong, right? So that's really where we're coming from here. But the comparison, just to make that comparison, is insane. Like, that's the president of the United States.
But am I really supposed to just like these generals are all beyond lying? I mean, Mattis, as you know, right? Mattis resigned because Trump actually tried to pull out of Syria, which he had campaigned on
But he didn't
and run.
criticize Trump.
No, by the way,
I agree with you.
No, he did.
No. He said he doesn't respect the Constitution. They all consistently.
No,
say
I'm not
the
saying.
same
Okay,
thing.
fine, but like, what does that even mean to them? They don't respect the Constitution. We were in Syria unconstitutionally. We were there without a declaration of war.
The game is always comparing both sides.
No,
Trying to
I'm
pretend that
not.
they're the same.
No,
It's not even wrong because we haven't declared war since World War II.
Yes, I know. That's my point. The thing is, you're just projecting that I'm playing that game. I'm talking to him about something else.
Dave,
I'm not playing your dumb game.
I'm agreeing with you on the foreign policy. I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is,
pretend to laugh all you want
do
to,
you
but-
believe all the generals are just attacking? Forget the generals. Go through everyone. His press secretary, his vice president. We can go through the list. NBC went to 44 cabinet officials.
I do not.
And said, "Are you voting for Trump?"
Yes. Okay.
4.
Okay.
said
So let me
yes.
ask you a question. I believe that, and I do not trust Donald Trump. I think he's not an honest person. He's a
So then why are you running any defense for him?
self-promoter who will say whatever makes him look good. I believe that when Donald Trump said all of this rhetoric about
I don't think this guy believes this at all. He just wants to seem reasonable. Why would you just support somebody that you can't trust as a person?
drain the swamp in 2016, when he said we're not going to fight these wars anymore, when he, maybe somewhat unwittingly, called out Obama and John.
I mean, it's hard for you to talk about like Trump like not supporting wars when like he is a big reason why there's a conflict going on in Israel-Palestine right now. He's too far in support of Netanyahu, an actual like a genocidal war criminal. That's number one. Number two, there was peace treaties between like Arabic countries and Israel during Trump's presidency. And he didn't bring Palestine in on the conversation when that peace treaty, put a lot of restrictions on Palestinians and not enough on Israel. So, like, why do you think that there was? Why do not think that that's like a huge factor in like what's going on right now? I mean, you'd have to be stupid to not think so.
Brennan for the literal treason that they committed in Syria with a capital T, arming and funding the enemy in wartime. Okay, when he said Obama created ISIS, things like that, I think he made a lot of enemies in Washington D.C. And the idea that you could get 5 or 10 of them to come together and all say something bad about him, I'm not. Okay, fine, doesn't. I don't believe them either.
Okay, Dave, you're a smart guy. Let me just put it to you, just very simply. If I'm Mike Pence, am I not voting for Donald Trump because my family almost got killed or because Trump was in Syria? I'm going to take
That's a pretty decent argument.
the simple answer. That he's not supporting Trump because he saw that Trump did on
Kamala's held to very low standards as well. Both of them are. So I just need to be very clear here because I see that. I appreciate you in the TikTok chat. Number one, Kamala's held to exponentially higher standards than Trump. Trump doesn't have any policy. Like, he legitimately has no policy position other than like, hey guys, you know what we're going to do? Tariffs. He has nothing there. He has no plan for anything. He shot down border wall legislation because he wanted to run on it. He's completely uncredible. Kamala has well written out and defined policy. She's done a good job as vice president for the past 4 years. Biden's actually had an improvement on the economy and has gotten us through two issues, like two foreign issues in defending our allies. We've had the least worst inflation compared to any other country in the world or any other first world country. They've done a decent job. Trump is held to an exponentially lower standard. We're talking about somebody with like how many people around him are indicted? How many indictments does he have against him? He's a criminal that tried to insurrect the government. So like this comparison, like I don't like Kamala Harris. I don't like her. There's something I don't like about her. Maybe I'm racist. I don't know. I'm just kidding. But they're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. Like Kamala Harris is actually qualified to be president. Donald Trump is not qualified to be president. Donald Trump is a traitor to the United States of America. And conservatives 20 years ago would have been calling for capital punishment on traitors in America. But now conservatives are so anti-American that like they two-handed jerk like Putin's cock in one hand and Trump in the other. It's pathetic. It's actually pathetic. The only thing that I think that conservatives had was loving America, and they don't even have that anymore. That's pretty much it. There's no policy. There's no love for America. What is the point of voting conservative or Republican anymore? Like, there's nothing there. There's just nothing there. It's not there anymore. I can't even stand behind the like, oh yeah, because I love America, and that gives like I get a chub for it. There's nothing here anymore. We don't have anything. Conservatives have nothing.
I'm not saying Pence isn't. Well, to my point, you can go down the list. I can be here all day telling you about former Trump officials who have turned on him. They can't all be lying.
Yeah, they can. I mean, they can. By definition, they could.
Then you're engaging in a conspiracy. If all of them are lying, now everything's a conspiracy against Trump. Like he has the #1 like baby-brained victim complex.
Trump's telling the truth.
It's not a law. It's not. Well, no, I don't. It's not a law of logic that they couldn't all be lying. Yes, you could get a bunch of people in D.C. together to lie. That's how do you think we got in Iraq? Right? You got a lot of people in D.C. together to lie.
Let me just say.
Hang
on.
And in all honesty, I just want to be real with you. This whole like no tax on overtime and no tax on tips. Frankly, it's just pandering to people. We shouldn't be doing that. I hate to be an asshole. We shouldn't be cutting taxes on people with tips or overtime, right? Like the economy's in a good space. We need to start recovering from our debt as a country. We need to make reasonable spending cuts, recover from our debt. And if we are going to try to empower the middle and lower class, it's going to need to be technology that's taxed because it's displacing jobs and driving down wages so that we can redistribute that wealth in a positive, productive way. Like it's a complete virtue signal to people that were like, oh, we're going to cut taxes. We're going to do this. Like we really shouldn't be doing that. I don't know if we should be raising middle class taxes. We shouldn't. But like rich people's taxes, absolutely. We have to start paying off our fucking debts. What happened to like fiscal responsibility? Another thing that the conservatives used to pretend to be about. I mean, it's crazy, you know? It's just ridiculous. Yeah, I think that we should figure out ways to deal with problems. One of them isn't 20% tariffs because that's just going to screw over the middle class, by the way. We should figure out ways to deal with like certain issues, absolutely, and try to relieve the middle class, you know? But I mean, we shouldn't be doing massive tax cuts like this.
Trump is that every single person is lying, but not Trump. This is the time that this is the game that's played.
Hang on, but Destiny, what you... Hang on.
Wait, I'm just curious, one question. Is there one other person with this track record of people around him that say he's a bad guy that you would support? Can you think of a single person with even half as many people that have worked closely with him? All of his personal people before elections, people like Michael Cohen, people like... How many people in his campaign were arrested and then he pardoned immediately? People like Manafort, people like Bannon. Like any one other person, just one person.
Destiny.
One person.
I'm going to say one thing to you, which is notwithstanding all your blind fury you two about
it's not
this.
Blind. It's very.
Okay, I would say though, what's fascinating to me is the moment I try and turn it back and say, yeah, but hang on, what about the rhetoric from your side?
So give me the rhetoric.
The Hitler, the Nazis, the Madison Square Garden.
Hitler. We've done this before in July.
Literally, Hillary Clinton just said this was 1939 all over again. The rally, a Nazi-style rally.
I mean, if the rally's opening up with jokes about how minorities are bad people and then Trump goes on a rampage, or he starts going on about how immigrants are taking over this country, dog whistling to people that immigrants are bad after insurrecting the government. I mean, this is getting as close as it's ever been in American history, as far as I'm aware, to another 1939. No, I don't know.
She's calling Trump supporters Nazis. So you do think he's the new Hitler?
No, I think most Trump supporters are just useless idiots that don't realize like how bad of a person they're supporting.
Nazi-style rally does not mean you're the new Hitler.
What does it mean?
By the way,
is it Kamala? I got to start getting that in my brain. It's Kamala, not Kamala. Kamala. I gotta get this one down. I'm legit. I want to say it the right way. I just never internalize it the right way.
By the way,
What's
Trump,
it mean?
hold on, you do this every time. Trump called
The
Biden.
Nazis were his party.
Is Joe Biden the Gestapo?
Huh?
Is Joe Biden the Gestapo?
What's that got to do with it?
I'm asking the question. Is Joe Biden the
No,
Gestapo?
I'm asking you. If it's a Nazi rally, why is he not the new?
So it's not Kamala. It's Kamala. Is that what you're saying?
Hitler.
Piers, is Joe Biden the
Who's
Gestapo?
running these new Nazis?
Is Joe Biden the Gestapo?
What's it got to do with it?
I'm asking you a question. Do you think Joe Biden is the
No,
Gestapo?
I'm asking the questions.
Do
It's
you
my
think-
debate.
Well, okay. Well, then let me just point out to you.
Answer my
viewers,
question first.
I will. Joe Biden was called the Gestapo by Trump. I've never heard you criticize Trump for calling Biden Nazi. Why?
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, it's a fair question, brother.
I thought we weren't supposed to do whataboutism.
Exactly.
I'm completely
He's
wrong.
exactly.
By the
He's
way,
bringing up a Nazi argument. That's
I
my
think it's a
point.
legitimate point you're making.
By the way,
I'm
he wasn't in the
just pointing
Gestapo.
out-
It's offensive. It's
just-
wrong.
by the way,
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't-
but so is it equally offensive?
Yeah, but you never harped on that point. That's the thing.
But you think he actually genuinely was
Do you
a
see the
Nazi rally?
difference? Do you see the difference between saying that people say
that it was a
did?
Nazi-style
in terms of the
Raising taxes doesn't always raise tax revenue. Lowering taxes doesn't always lower tax revenue. Tax revenue increased after Trump's 2017 cuts. So I just want you to be clear. I don't know if tax revenue increased after Trump's 2016. Actually, I could confidently say you're 100% wrong about that. And the reason I'm going to say you're 100% wrong about that is because the annual federal deficit surged $350 billion after Trump's tax cuts pre-COVID. So I'm pretty sure that's 0% true in any capacity. I think you just made that up. We saw a massive deficit increase of 50% annual federal deficit increase under Trump unnecessarily. Again, Obama dealt with the worst recession since the Great Depression. He came out of that lowering the annual federal deficit by half, right, down to $650 billion after the end of his 8-year term, 8-year presidency. Right, getting us into a place where we would still get a surplus and start paying off our debts. Trump came in, unnecessarily cut taxes drastically that did not have a positive impact on paying off those debts, and in the long term have really just led to inflation. Inflation isn't going to happen instantaneously. You put more money into the economy now doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to instantaneously inflate. Things have like a long-term negative side effect. Part of that obviously is COVID and stimulus checks. Just to be clear. Right. And COVID would have been rough either way, although him pushing a conspiracy that it wasn't real is obviously going to contribute to it further, the negatives further. But pre-COVID, $650 billion annual federal deficit increase. Like what you're saying is not true. It wasn't, his tax cuts were really not good for anything other than making people feel kind of nice about it because we got some more money. And I like that people got more money. We should empower the middle class. It's not the right way to engage in empowering the middle class. You know, again, we need to like do things like tax technologies and try to redistribute that wealth in a more productive, positive way. But the tax cuts were not good under Trump. Like they felt good because people had some more money in their pocket and it was nice. I got like an extra $10 a check or so. But that it's not worth it when it comes down to like we need to pay off our debts. We need to be more fiscally responsible. You know, it's hard to feel that way because we're feeling the squeeze, and it's because no president so far now or yet in any meaningful capacity has talked about technology and how to deal with that because they are taking jobs from us. They are driving down wages. You know, we're going to see things like just going into a grocery store and people are using self-checkouts. I use self-checkouts, by the way. I like it, but like that's not helping our worker pool. It makes things cheaper, which is good, but we also have to figure out how to maintain jobs. And so when you go into every grocery store, there's one person running like 8 self-checkouts, or you go into a McDonald's or a Burger King and then there's like some kind of self-checkout there, or you're using your phone to order food, even if you're going to pick it up, or you're using Uber or Lyft, which criminally underpays people, especially compared to taxi drivers. Or there's these conversations about self-driving vehicles, which are going to either displace jobs, or even if we implement legislation that forces you to have a pilot inside of a truck for a truck driver, it's going to reduce the amount that they're going to feel like they're going to have to pay. There are so many different things that we have to deal with. And we're not dealing with that, and that's why we're seeing a cut to the middle and lower class are getting like having their wealth siphoned, and they're feeling the pressure there. Because it's either going to be, you know, you outsource to another country to pay less, or you're going to stay in country and you're going to pay less. Like even when we're doing these tariffs that are like, hey, this is the thing about the Trump tariffs too. It's like even if we implement tariffs and the goal works of like, okay, we're going to start bringing back American we're not bringing back American jobs. We're going to start making products in America more. Those products are not going to be made by Americans. They're going to be made by fully automated factories that are not going to pay American workers. It's just going to be rich people that are going to be able to have substantially understaffed factories that have a couple of people there that might get paid really well, but at like a tenth of the workforce infrastructure that they would historically need because they're going to use machinery and robotics for it. Right. So even on that front where we're talking about like bringing back American jobs as tariffs, it's not going, even if it works, It's not going to work because Americans aren't really going to get jobs. It's going to be going to robots, and rich people are going to be able to benefit from that more than anything else. So there's so many different aspects to that people need to keep in mind.
Rhetoric that I said.
So
Do you think Kamala's Antichrist? Do you think Kamala Harris is the Antichrist? You can't just ignore the facts.
Seriously.
Yes, please. Jeez, I feel like I should be your mother and just shut you guys up. I'm not your mother. You're grown men, and I have respect for your ages, if nothing else. But listen, you did just say that it was a Nazi-type rally.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that kind of makes sense, no? Do we discounting the all the anti-immigrant rhetoric?
Nazi-style rally.
Yeah, I mean, people get up and say outrageously.
So who's the leader of this group?
Meaning participants are Nazi-style participants?
I'm saying people are cheering on far-right rhetoric. Do you know what the Great Replacement theory is?
The far right.
Do you know what the Great Replacement theory is?
Yeah, the Great Replacement theory is that there is a theory that immigrants are coming to this country to take over and they displace us. What I like about America is we're not a white country. We are just a country full of Americans. And I think that there is a general amount of like American culture, kind of like, you know, work hard, do your thing, et cetera, et cetera. So it doesn't really matter if what color you are. That's all I like to see. That's why I believe in like reasonable immigration. You know, I think that we should have like, you know, we shouldn't let everybody in. We should make sure we control the population, generally speaking. But we're not a white country. But there's a lot of people who are afraid of us not being a white country anymore. If one, either they think white people are better, or two, they're afraid that you know, other people are going to oppress us as much as, you know, maybe white people have oppressed them in the past. I mean, that's a self-report for you, buddy. So
What about I trade in facts?
What about all the Jews in the audience that I saw? What about the Israel flags I saw?
Israel flag means what?
Well, they may not be thinking he's.
Do you know some of the most far-right politicians in Europe support Israel?
Well, yeah, of course, people who are like very pro-Israel are going to support Trump. Trump has zero, like I would put like zero restrictions onto like the atrocities that the Israeli government is performing. Israel has the right to exist; they have the right to defend themselves, but they don't have the right to, you know, genocide an entire group of people. I mean, that's insane. And Trump does not care. He praises it constantly. There's no criticism from Trump onto the way what they're doing over there. That's not good. That's horrific.
Right now, including card-carrying anti-Semitism.
So of course they're going to bypass, like they're going to engage in that like nationalism when it comes down to that.
Why would Jewish people go and watch the new Hitler and cheer him on?
Why did a Jewish speaker make lots of anti-immigrant racist remarks? I mean, this is ridiculous. Muslims and Jews. A Muslim guy endorsed Trump on Friday. Does that mean Trump is pro-Muslim? Come on, Piers, you're better than this.
No, I'll tell you what, you're better than this, because when you say it was a Nazi rally,
I didn't say it was a Nazi rally.
You did.
I didn't actually. I said it was a Nazi-style rally.
When you say the Nazi-style rally, you're calling Trump Hitler.
Oh, God. Let me repeat myself. I'm repeating myself. I'm saying that I listened to a rally at which people said things that Nazis said. Do you deny that Joseph Goebbels talked about enemy of the people? That enemy within is a Hitler?
So anyone who uses the phrase enemy of the people is a Nazi?
Not anyone. When Trump consistently uses Trump language, Hitler language, when he says poisoning the blood of immigrants. Was that coincidence as well? Even after he was told that's only from Mein Kampf and he said it again. Was that a coincidence?
It was a Nazi rally to you.
Was that a coincidence?
Was it a Nazi rally?
No, it was a Nazi-style rally. People said absolutely neo-Nazi
things. So these people are capable of
you just want to
perpetrating
get
a
a gotcha
Holocaust.
line, and I want you to do with facts. Is a Great Replacement theory Nazi theory or not? No. Sorry, facts matter. You can't just say, I'm going to ask you about headline
You're
pictures.
missing my overall point, which is this.
It's not my fault.
My point is that you two are very excised about the...
I'm excited about the fact that you don't deal in facts, Piers. The Great Replacement
Let me get a word in.
No. Great Replacement theory is a neo-Nazi theory.
I don't know who this guy is, but I like him.
Address that. I can't continue this conversation.
Let me come to Sarah. I want to move to a different thing, because you're not going to address the fact you think
you
they're
don't know what
Nazis.
the Great Replacement
You think they're a
theory
bunch of Nazis, but don't.
He's very good at dodging questions.
Really want to say they're a bunch of Nazis.
Talking about Piers specifically.
Joes, I love watching you guys do this to each other, because watching you guys do it to other people is infuriating, and when you guys put each other is very funny. So
I do it too.
It is true, though. You don't deal in fact when you talk about Trump, though. I agree with him.
No, I do. I'm very.
What's the Great Replacement theory? Why did you tell me?
Why did you tell me?
Hang on. I know the Great Replacement theory. I don't agree with the Great Replacement theory.
So why was it echoed by Tucker Carlson and Don Jr. yesterday at the rally?
I don't agree with it. What do you want me to say?
So yeah, he said.
Yeah, but it's a big thing. Like, it's so interesting. Like, it's okay to not agree with people, but it's not that he just doesn't agree with people. It's that like he's like, oh yeah, I don't agree with this rhetoric, but you don't seem to be particularly morally alerted about it. So it's like that's insane to me. You're not morally you don't seem to be morally alerted about like this horrific like rhetoric that Trump is using. I don't understand that. You know, it's just, it really is this it is like fence sitting behavior. You know, fence sitting. It's just like you're like, yeah, this is bad, but you're not maintaining the truly like horrific moral weight of what's going on here. It's insane.
Said yes, Don Jr. was speaking. He said the immigrants coming to replace us.
Trump was on a softball question by Sean Hannity. He said he'd be a dictator on day one.
Let me ask you about
but
let me ask you about illegal immigration then, Destiny. So we've seen an unbelievably large number of illegal immigrants come in during the Biden-Harris administration.
Absolutely.
Do you think this is right for America?
No, absolutely not. But I think it's something that we need to keep in mind is that it's not as transparent as there's a lot of people coming here. COVID shut everything down. That meant the asylum seeking process was shut down. Now that COVID is over, people are coming in a higher influx because these are people that wanted to come in originally and didn't have the opportunity to. That's what it boils down to. Is it chaotic? Absolutely. I think things could absolutely be better, 100%. And I think that Joe Biden and Kamala should have done more. But Jesus Christ. But at the same time, I think it's important to keep in mind that Trump could have done something about it and refused to do so. He refused to pass a border wall bill during his presidency because he wanted to get reelected on the border. So
I don't think that Republicans think that illegal immigration is a problem right now. In fact, I'm 100%.
That wasn't my question. I said you think it's right.
The issue,
between 7 and 10 million people.
The reality is, here are two facts that nobody will ever talk about.
Well, those people haven't come in necessarily. Those are border wall interactions, just to be clear. The border wall agents have interacted with them.
I'll tell you, here are two facts. We do not have a problem right now with illegal immigration in the United States. We have a problem with asylum seeking. Okay, that's the number one. That's a huge thing. But number two, if this was such a huge problem, why were Republicans so content to pull the plug on it when Donald Trump said, "I need to leave the border open for me to run on this as an election issue"? You know what that tells me? That tells me it was never really a problem in the first place. It was just a talking point.
It's Trump's fault.
Definitionally.
Yeah, well, it is Trump's fault for that.
Wait. I gotta hear this. Do you understand? Do you agree that Donald Trump was the one that told them to pull the plug on the bill?
He said so.
Well, I don't think...
Do you agree that Donald Trump told them, do not vote yes on this bill?
I can try and answer.
Okay.
I don't think he should have been active in getting that bill pulled because it would have helped.
Okay, so then you're admitting that he did the wrong thing. Why is there such a justification for his bad behavior?
And I want to bring Sarah in on this. You cannot dispute there is a massive crisis at the southern border.
Okay, but Trump is part of that crisis, right? Trump is part of the problem. That's the issue.
Or can you dispute?
I'm shocked that you say that Republicans don't believe that the influx of illegal aliens across our borders is not a problem. It is a problem. It is a problem, and I think it's not just Republicans who recognize that. Look at even the Democrats.
They refuse to answer the question about why Trump pulled the border bill, and it's very intentional because they know they look really bad. They know that it looks so bad that they can't defend it. They know that's how bad it looks. They know that they can't defend the behavior. It looks really bad for them, and they're going to get completely sloshed on it. It's so funny.
Leaders of cities who are being overrun, their budgets being busted, trying to support the
and they all supported the bill. They supported the bill.
It's insane.
Do you not think blaming Trump for everything is a bit lame?
I'm talking about
they were ready to vote for the bill, and then Trump said, "Don't do it."
Let me bring it down.
Langford, all people said they were going to vote for the bill, and then Trump pulled the plug on it.
Where you've not said one critical thing about Donald Trump since it started.
Actually, what I was going to say to you before I got shouted over yet again on my own show, what I was going to say to you was,
I thought it was going to be Dave and Sarah versus me and Destiny. But apparently, it's me and Destiny versus Sarah and Piers.
You always like to do this. It's not true.
When
Trump was president,
if this guy is constantly coming on Pierce's show and embarrassing him, and Pierce has him on, you got to respect Piers for that. You really.
I wrote 110 columns for the Daily Mail about Trump. When he left, I counted negative, positive. It was about 50-50.
Great, but not today.
So I have been very, very critical of Trump, and I felt he's deserved it.
But he hasn't been critical. Piers has this beautiful ability to acknowledge that Trump has done bad, but then to downplay the proportionality of how bad what he does is. And that's the problem. That's the problem with him. That's your issue, man.
Because I find that with you, and with great respect to you guys, you absolutely love sticking it to him. When I try and stick it back to your own problems with your own party, you don't want to hear it.
Piers, I can assure you I wish that I hadn't heard a bunch of racist stuff last night. I'm just coming on the show to say I heard a bunch of racist stuff last night.
Dave, let me ask you this, Dave. Trump's most powerful part of his speech last night was his first line, which said, let me start by just saying this. How many of you feel better off than you did 4 years ago? And they all do any of you? And they all shouted no. I can imagine.
Well, no. Of course not. No, things were better 4 years ago under Trump. The question is, okay. The question is it because of Trump that things are better? What did we have 4 years ago, right? We're in 2024. 4 years ago, Trump just came into office after Obama had fixed the economy from another conservative, Bush, who destroyed it. He inherited a roughly $1.2 trillion annual federal deficit, right? Meaning that we were spending that much more money per year than what we were taking in, and he left it at $650 billion. He cut it in half. The economy was strong. It was pretty decent. Things were still rough, but it was solid. Trump came in at a time where he should have continued to lower the deficit, but instead made massive tax cuts that were mostly for rich people that we really shouldn't have engaged in. Again, we need to deal with technology displacing jobs and driving down wages more than we need to do very simple tax cuts. That's never been on the table. No politician seems to be acknowledging that. Came in, he cut taxes, and that's nice short term. massively inflated the annual federal deficit by $350 billion pre-COVID. And then that was and then COVID hit, and obviously things were washed. Outside of that, he did nothing. He didn't do anything about healthcare, which he promised that he would. He didn't do anything about the border. He even knocked down a border bill that was a bipartisan border wall bill. He hasn't really done anything meaningful in any capacity. Things being better under Trump doesn't mean it was Trump this doesn't mean it was because of Trump. There's nothing to do with Trump. Right? It's an association with it. But if you sit down and you critically think for a little bit, you'll realize that Trump really wasn't a very good president originally, and now he is an unvotable president because he's an insurrectionist. That while people that he riled up to attack the Capitol were attacking the Capitol, instead of calling the National Guard and be like, hey, this is wrong, he's sitting there on the phone trying to get faulty electors to vote against the will of the people in the election to make him win, while his own vice president, Mike Pence, refused to do it. And then him saying Mike Pence had failed us. What did he fail us on? Right? Trump's not a good person. He was never a good president. And he's literally a traitor to America. And again, if this was 20 years ago, conservatives who used to love America and didn't guzzle Russian cum would have said, hey, this is wrong and this deserves serious punishment. So
millions of Americans at home who've had an extremely tough 4 years because of massive inflation and huge cost of living problems would all be shouting no as well. That, in the end, I suspect will win Trump the election. Nothing else. I suspect it's actually going to be, it'll be the failure to control the border, but it will be predominantly that people feel they are worse off than they were 4 years ago.
Well, I think the thing that really undercuts this pitch from Donald Trump is that he really means 5 years ago.
What do you mean he means 5 years ago?
You know, Donald Trump has to run on the first 3 years of his administration and then go, hey, that whole 2020 thing really doesn't count because, we got hit with this virus and the Democrats would have done the same thing.
Is it unreasonable, that position? Given it was a global pandemic.
Well, yes and no.
Well, he could have handled it better instead of pushing the conspiracy that it was a conspiracy.
By common consent, America performed better than most countries in the pandemic.
Well, it depends on how you measure it.
You just measure it like a normal person. We did better through the pandemic than anybody else. So
it totally depends on how you measure
economically,
it.
It is believed America performed better than most countries.
We also recovered better, but Biden doesn't get credit for that.
Jeez, guys. I mean, I know it's like a week before an election, man, and everything's just got to get down to this tribal. We got to win this point, man. But just for a second, I will say that it's look, on one hand, what Donald Trump benefits from is the fact that the entire Democratic criticism of Donald Trump through 2020 was just that he didn't do more lockdowns and do more, you know what I mean? And so they kind of don't.
The criticism is that he encouraged people to believe that it was a conspiracy theory and not real. And a lot of people died. The excess death rate was 1 million in 3 years in America alone.
Don't get to say it, but he also doesn't really get. The truth is, 4 years ago from today, a lot of Americans were worse off than they are right now because they were recovering from lockdowns. There were people whose businesses were shut down.
That's why he said from the start of the administration.
In my opinion, if Donald Trump had been a great leader, had actually risen to the moment he was called to, and had gotten Fauci off that task force, and had been against lockdowns, and had kept somewhat of
then we would be fucked. That's an idiot perspective to ever have. This guy's a moron.
Going through that year, he'd be in a much.
It's always the only people who deny COVID's existence are people who didn't have to work in any meaningful capacity during COVID. I worked during COVID. I cleaned buses during COVID. I led the cleaning crew that disinfected the buses so people can get dialysis. It was not good. The things were bad. People were dying. It wasn't a good time. It was rough. I don't know what this guy's full of shit.
Stronger position the irony,
to say that. The irony is that Trump in the pandemic actually behaved like a good old-fashioned authoritarian. And
not really.
You lot screamed it wasn't authoritarian enough.
Well, listen, I will say, I do think, maybe not you. There were certainly a lot of people who were critical of that.
Fauci, of course.
Sure, but that's a separate point. Now, for Donald Trump, what he can kind of get at is that, the first 3 years of his administration certainly were much better times for many Americans. I would say this, however, I think in some ways Donald Trump is fortunate that he didn't win the election in 2020 because those years were going to be very tough years for the country. And now the Democrats,
the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Yes, depending on how you want to measure these things, I think they've been very difficult.
Consent, I think so.
Man, you guys just are impossible.
This guy's just pushing misinformation. He's trying to make it seem like things were bad under Biden. Things were pretty good under Biden. Given the circumstances, Biden did a very good job. So we have to stop pretending otherwise. Now, maybe we should have let Trump do 8 years in a row because then he would have probably fucked the country up in these next 4 years. He's not fiscally responsible or particularly intelligent. So maybe it would have been a good idea to vote him in just so he could fail horribly and we could finally be done with these idiots. Maybe we could see a shift in the Conservative Party to a more reasonable perspective. Who knows? But
you're trying to sneak so many bullshit facts. The United States is doing better than every OECD country, than every G7 country when it comes to inflation. You're trying to blame it on Biden.
No, it didn't. Desi, I'm actually not trying to blame it on Biden. If you listen to what I said whoever was going to be in there was going to have. But that's what you hear because
even the things that you
try to win the point.
No, it's not about winning the point. Even when you say people were mad about Trump for not being authoritarian enough. That's not true. People were mad about Trump because, one, he denied that COVID was even in the country for days or weeks until it was finally evident that we had to say something about it. And then two, Donald Trump undermined his own health administration so much that the one thing that he wished he could take credit for that he tried to, which was warp speed for the vaccine, he couldn't even do it because his electorate wouldn't even believe that vaccines work.
Hang on, let me bring in Sarah.
It's true.
Thank you.
Let me bring in Sarah.
You were making a point based on Trump's opening line, right? And I think you were going to make an interesting point, but you were interrupted.
The actual world drives us back so much.
Would you all survive another 4 years of Trump? I would. I would do very well financially, because like Trump is good content to talk about. Like whether you want to hear that or not, it's just a reality. I would do very well financially, and like I would do very well if he got elected in there. Like it would be a treasure trove. I mean, he's such a horribly obnoxious dog shit president that it's so easy to criticize him. You don't even necessarily need nuance. So, but no, it would be bad for the country.
You mumbled an answer, though, when he said, Trump asked the audience, are you better off today than you were? And you said, well, no,
they are better off today.
You're saying we are better off today?
Yeah, I know facts.
Really? The $33 trillion debt that we are, the trajectory of this debt, too.
Yeah, this is a post-COVID issue, though. So, like, post-COVID, you can't expect us to get our deficit under control because we are just coming out of, like, a problem. So the next presidency would be somebody to try to lower the deficit. I think Kamala could do that. But unfortunately, people like are so unnuanced about it that I don't even know if we could run that as like a plug and be like, hey, listen, when you start paying our debts off, I do wish politicians would be a little more honest with people and tell them like the reality of the world. But
it's going the wrong direction.
So hold on, Trump added more to the debt than any previous president.
I'm going to give you an example. Look at the inflation rate. Go into
inflation's like 2.3% right now. It's actually not that bad. I understand that our proxy war with Russia was a little rough, but I mean, like, it's really not that bad. It's still tough, but things are stabilized reasonably.
Grocery store, see what it costs to buy a dozen eggs, to buy a pound of butter, to fuel up your truck, all these things.
But look at the polls. But look at the polls, by the way, which show the two biggest issues for American voters in this election by far
are
the economy, cost of living, and immigration. And that is why, if Trump ends up winning, it will be on those two issues.
We agree for the first time in the show. I agree with you, but the polling is bad on the economy. The Americans, the vibes are bad on the economy.
We're not better
off. The point
today.
Destiny made just now is that facts also matter. So, I thought it was a conservative line, facts don't care about your feelings. I don't care that Americans feel bad about the economy. The numbers are very clear. Every economist says the same thing. Every survey shows the same thing. Real wages are actually higher today than they were in September 2020. They are. Real wages are higher. Real wages, you know what real wages are? What do you mean not factoring? Real wages factoring inflation, Sarah Palin. That's what real wages are. Factoring inflation, real wages are higher today than in September 2020. In fact, wages have outstripped prices for the last 20 straight months. Household net worth is at a record high. Unemployment is at a 50-year low. We now have 6 million fewer people unemployed.
So why do the vast majority of Americans feel worse off?
Sorry?
Are they all lying about
I think inflation took a toll, huge toll.
So they are worse off.
But the inflation's now down, right? We're at the lowest inflation rate since February 2021. No, because now real wages are up.
You just said you inferred they were.
Have prices decreased then?
First of all, again, I agree that Americans are upset about prices. I'm upset about prices. But it was a global problem, was it not? Did you not just say the pandemic was a global problem?
Why would they
was inflation not a global problem?
Why would they be upset about prices if they're not worse off?
Because they were. Hold on. In 2022, when we hit record high levels of inflation, if I'd...
I mean, I think that people are obviously still going to be upset about prices nowadays, of course, because things are still expensive and it's still frustrating to exist and things are still rough. And even though the economy might be doing well overall, there's probably specific sectors like fuel sectors and the fuel sector, well, this is huge because like transportation, right? Because fuel was pretty big because we had like the whole involvement with Russia. I mean, you're going to see an increased price of fuel and then some groceries, depending on how much transportation is required in order to get those. I think we also had, this is somewhat unrelated, that was very short term, is there was a huge issue with, was it shipping in New York? Where I forget exactly who it was, but there were people that wanted better like pay and wages and guarantee that their jobs weren't going to get automated away, and that had like a short-term, very negative impact on the economy as well. It made things drastically expensive. People are still feeling the squeeze, absolutely. But like overall, economy-wise, we're doing decently. Any other video sped up 25%.
So they still feel worse off today.
We still have that inflation. It's cumulative. It's year-over-year.
So they are worse off then.
So that's one factor. Prices are just one thing. Wages are another thing. Net worth is another thing.
I already conceded. Do people feel worse off? Yes, but the numbers say something else.
So they're all completely deluded.
Yeah, people not deluded, but people. You think the public know everything about everything?
You're underestimating the wisdom of the people.
There's polling on this. You can look at the YouGov polls. You can see.
By the way, since Joe Biden was running for office,
itself is all about.
So this has actually been the official Democratic line, which is that this is a great economy. They were saying this back this summer when Joe Biden.
Economy's decent.
Was in. It's a great economy. economy. All of the numbers show it. All of the economists say it. But there's this problem where people just don't agree.
They don't
people
understand.
are so stupid.
Well, they don't know. They're actually better off.
Let me get a sentence out here. Listen, as you guys kind of just alluded to there, look, the problem with inflation is that it is cumulative. And so even though the inflation rate has come down, that's just adding to the prices.
Correct.
And people have been absolutely destroyed over the last 3.5 years over this price inflation. It is literally everybody I know has felt the pressure of it. Even people who make like really good money. It's been very, very difficult. I do not think this is something that is lays at the feet of one party or the other. The truth is that Donald Trump in the year 2020, not all Trump, but his government locked down the economy and added $6 trillion to the money supply in the year 2020. That was going to result in some price inflation. Biden then in 2021 came in. They kept the money printing going. They kept the government. I'm not denying there was inflation problems around the globe. I'm saying we're talking about America right now. This is something that is now.
Well, it's recovering from COVID. It's dealing with Israel, Palestine. It's dealing with Ukraine, Russia. There's like a lot of different things that had a negative impact on like the world economy. I'd say obviously, Jesus Christ. I'd obviously say like like the Russia situation was like worse, but it's a lot of different things.
The politics of it are that the actual price inflation pretty much all fell on Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's watch, and that's very difficult to get yourself out.
Can I say one point about this thing about you say about facts and feed? I can prove to you that Americans are not doing this as some kind of rational calculation. I can prove it to you. If the American people really cared about inflation and prices, that's their number one issue, then they would vote Harris. Because every single economist, 95% of economists, according to a University of Chicago survey, say they will pay higher in tariffs. Tariffs will bring up inflation. Every serious economist in this
that is absolutely true.
You're missing the
Piers, you're missing the point, because if inflation is the number one issue...
my point.
Could you let me finish mine? You jumped in. If inflation is their number one issue, then they should be voting for Harris. That proves that inflation's not...
just on the policy alone of like massive 20% tariffs, you should vote against Trump, because like I said before, even if it does work to bring more factories back to America, that's not more jobs. They're going to get automated so heavily that it's not going to be jobs. It's going to be rich people in America making the money instead of poor people in another country. So really, it's like a 6-in-1. We have to deal with our technology issue.
Here's the problem. The problem is that the reality of the inflation issue, as you've all basically admitted, is that inflation, by very definition, is increasing prices even if the rate comes down. So Americans are paying consistently, month by month by month, for the entire Biden-Harris administration. They're paying more.
But that's kind of how inflation works. Like healthy inflation is about 2 to 3%. So like you're always going to see inflation. It's just like our real wages keeping up with the inflation is the conversation.
They go to the grocery store.
Their wages have gone up too, Piers. This is the key part of economics.
But the
real wages have gone up.
But the vast majority of working class people in America feel worse off, and that is going to ultimately is going to resonate.
We're kind of not really disagreeing. At the very beginning, I said I take your point about feelings. I'm just saying facts show that they're better off. If you want to answer the question Trump asked honestly, people are better off.
Okay, let's turn to war. Because that should calm down the debate. Destiny, look, obviously it's a pretty consequential election in many ways, but not least, I would argue, for the fate of people in Gaza and Ukraine and other hotspots around the world. Where are we with these? I mean, it's quite interesting to me that for the first time I can remember, you have a body of Republicans who do not want to back, say, Ukraine against a Russian dictator that illegally invaded their country. I remain very perplexed and surprised that is the view. And Sarah, we can come to you.
What's the gaslighting? What exactly is the gaslighting? That economists say that Kamala will be better. Kamala will be better. Of course, she's going to be better. Tariffs are horrific. Trump's proposed tariffs are not good for the economy. Just to be clear, not good for the middle class. Just to be clear about that.
For why that may be, but that is the case. If Trump was to win, he says he'll fix it all in 24 hours. I don't think he will, but he will try and do a deal. The question is, what is that deal? Because Ukraine are saying they're not going to give up an inch of the land.
So the issue is that Donald Trump's a 4-year-old when it comes to understanding any issue, but especially foreign policy. And a lot of people have this, they're obsessed with this idea of peace in their mind, which if you're in conflict, peace is the furthest
Americans
thing from
are actually doing better. I mean, according to whatever real wages. Again, it doesn't really matter if they are doing better. Apparently we are. I don't know how true that is. But again, back 4 years ago when Trump came into office, the economy was doing better under Obama. He did unnecessary tax cuts that just inflated the annual federal deficit by 50%. So I think we might have been better off 4 years ago. But at the same time, was it because of Trump? Not really. So you thought I was a Trump fan? You're thought wrong. Yeah, I'm definitely not a Trump fan. Trump is an insurrectionist traitor to America. I do not like Trump at all. This is not even like if he was just some other conservative, like a J.D. Vance was running, I would be like, okay, I understand why you're voting for J.D. Vance or something. Because he's a pretty elegant, soft-spoken guy, or charismatically speaking, intelligent guy. But Trump is an insurrectionist and a traitor to America. He's a legitimately he's a cancer to our society. Like, just to be absolutely true, clear, he has no meaningful, reasonable policies in any capacity. He's not good.
Some kind of justice or justice, right? So Trump's solution for Ukraine is just give up the land that's been taken from you, and everything will be kosher, just like Russia did in Moldova with Transnistria, just like Russia did with South Ossetia. I can't pronounce the other place in Georgia, and just like Russia's trying to do now with Ukraine. If you're somebody that wants, justice for Ukraine, and you want the United States to remain a world leader when it comes to, ensuring trade routes or being somebody that the world looks to ensure.
Yeah, we have to have strong allies. We have to show our allies that they can depend on us, or else they're not going to trust us to trade with them. That's why we're like the leader in trade in the world. Like, that's why people trust us. If they ally with us, they know that, like, okay, we'll get some kind of protection if we're attacked.
Relative peace, freedom, and stability throughout places like Europe, which it has enjoyed historically more in the past 30 years than it had in the 200 years prior to
But I like Trump for a Scooby snack. True.
that. Donald Trump obviously is not going to do that for you. If you're somebody who's very concerned about the Israeli Gaza.
Did Vance say you would have overthrown the election, 2020 election for Trump? Well, shit. Maybe I spoke too soon. Maybe if he didn't attach himself to Trump, he would have been better off, but shit.
I mean, you've got Donald Trump, who wholeheartedly, he said it before, will support Israel basically no matter what, with absolutely, no contention whatsoever. You've got a guy who agreed to moving the embassy, who before that was talking about pulling all of the UNRWA funding from the Gaza Strip, who would support Netanyahu through and through. The whole reason why those Abraham Accords started was because Netanyahu wanted to start annexing parts of the West Bank, right? Donald Trump is not going to help any of the Palestinians if that's something that you're concerned about. Insofar as peace in the Middle East, I mean, you've got this talking point over and over again, no new wars, no new wars. Yeah, again, we haven't had any new wars since World War II, right? The war in Iraq was the use of force authorization, the authorization of the use of force, but it wasn't technically a war.
Well, it was a war.
You can call it that, but Donald Trump bombed Syria. Donald Trump bombed Syria. That wasn't a war, apparently. Yeah, with no congressional authorization. Iran attacked Saudi Arabia. They did a drone strike on oil refineries. There was conflict all throughout Iraq and Syria. Donald Trump abandoned Kurdish allies in Syria. Donald Trump signed a deal with the Taliban and essentially forfeited Afghanistan. And there was the whole fallout from that. Like, this idea that there was peace in the Middle East under Donald Trump is absolutely ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense.
Look, I actually think Trump's foreign policy was a lot more effective than people give him credit for.
He did nothing. What was effective about it?
Well, there's not. Look, I mean, it's not. There's some truth in there mixed with some just like attempts to get Donald Trump. Like, when people say there were no new wars under Donald Trump, there is. First of all, I'll say at least that's the talking point. At least that's what they're going with, rather than going, he killed all them terrorists or something like that, which would have 20 years ago would have been the talking point from people on the right wing. So that's at least better. But the reason why they wouldn't consider him bombing Syria a new war is because Obama had us already in that conflict since 2012.
When he reneged on his red line.
Yes. Now, listen. By the way, there are
Assad used chemical weapons, and Obama did nothing, and Putin came in and took control. Well, that's what happened.
Okay.
Yes,
anyway, yes.
That is what happened.
Well, actually, if you want to really look at what happened in 2012, because the war, and I know you know about this stuff, because the war in Iraq had been such a disaster, and the power had been handed back to the Shiites in the region, and Iran had more influence than they had in the history of the regime. Then it really started under George W. Bush, but then continued into Obama. They did what they call the redirect, where now we were going to try to take the Shiites down a peg, who we had just put in power in Iraq. And so what we wanted to do was overthrow Bashar al-Assad, and so we started funding all of the anti-Assad
we got this really nice info dump. I'm really appreciative of
rebels, which largely consisted of Al-Qaeda and ISIS, and they knew this. Anyway, it wasn't like during Obama inherited these two wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and said he was going to end at least the one in Iraq. He then spread wars to Libya, Syria, Yemen. Somalia had already been going since George W. Bush was in there. You didn't see that under Donald Trump. You didn't see. However, he did. Yes, if you let me finish the sentence, then sure, we'd get there. However, he did escalate the war in Afghanistan, which he said himself was unwinnable, and so he escalated the war in Afghanistan. Not like Obama with 70,000 plus troops there, but he did send thousands extra troops. He did take off the gloves with drone strikes and rules of engagement. So the idea that he was like an anti-war president is not true. There was rhetorically. He was very different than previous presidents, and he would at least talk about the idea that these wars were disasters, that we never should have fought them, and that really America shouldn't be involved in that business.
Also,
I'm glad that he's at least infusing that into the popular
I do think
conversation.
he came at it with an overview as a business guy. It's just bad business. These wars were costing trillions of dollars cumulatively to get nowhere, really.
Well, I mean, from a business perspective, they were funding the war machine, right? So like the financial infrastructure. It's not a good thing, I'm just saying.
What's your assessment of Trump on the foreign stage?
And there's huge conflicts of interest also with this war machine that our country has seemed to have embraced and allowed to perpetuate. I'm voting for Trump because I hate war. And I don't know if any of you, I hate that it's the old man who...
I don't see how Trump is going to prevent any wars if he's just going to let Israel do whatever they want to Palestine. Is that not going to cause potentially more wars in the Middle East? I don't understand that talking point.
Call for wars, and they send our young men to go fight those wars for them, our young men and our young women.
It's just like a virtue signal. What are you talking about? Like, what war are we going to go into because of Kamala and not Trump?
And all politics are personal. I don't know if any of you have a real personal connection with those who have been sent to war zones, and then the guys, the gals, they come back different people. They're adversely affected. On a personal level here, I'm
waiting for her to pretend to cry.
Do whatever I can, and I will support whatever candidate needs support in order to avoid war. Why I will not support Kamala is she doesn't understand, for one, that inherent link between energy development, energy independence in America, and that inherent link between that and our safety and our.
We live in a world economy. Like, that's just a reality. We cannot have pure energy independence. It's a stupid idea that would actually cripple us economically. So just to be absolutely clear, and it makes sense to store or not go through all of our energy storages right now, and instead use some of other countries' energy storages first. Right? All these things. So what she's saying just makes no sense. It just sounds like you want to concede to Russia like a coward. Like, I don't.
Sovereignty, and because Kamala and because the Democrat Party has put an end to so much of our exploration, certainly so much of our development of our own natural resources.
Isn't America producing more energy today than we have in all of history?
No, we're not. And
that's not true? We're not?
No, we're not. And
okay.
Remember, Kamala and her administration, day one, they stopped pipelines, no more drilling on federal lands.
So we looked up, America's not producing more energy. You ran with McCain. You said you care about veterans and everything. Did Trump's comments about McCain bother you at all? Did Trump prefers people that didn't get captured?
I've never said anything negative about McCain or any.
I didn't ask if you said it. I asked if Trump's comments bother you about that.
Anyway,
that's a good question. I mean, answer it.
Gold Star family for their child. Did that bother you?
The inherent link between energy.
She just said she cares about vets. I had two parents who served in the Air Force. I'm just curious, if you cared about vets, did these comments bother you? When Trump tried to go to Arlington and do a photo op there.
If I care about vets,
yeah, really, did these comments bother you?
If I care about vets.
If you care about
she knows she can't answer that question because Trump was like a piece of shit to McCain. So like that, and she's just so fucking dishonest. It's fucking crazy.
So the inherent link between energy and prosperity and energy security.
About whether or not Trump's comments about
you interrupted the point that I was going to make.
You changed the subject,
dude.
Political talking points. Are we running for office in here?
Really?
You did run for office, by the way. You ran with John McCain, the most warmongering man that we know of. Why did you run with John McCain? Point to me. Why did you run with John McCain if you're anti-wars?
To make a positive difference in our country.
But he would have sent more people to die.
You don't know that.
I do. He literally said bomb, bomb, bomb Iraq. He sang it.
Yeah,
I mean, he did campaign.
He campaigned on a war
platform. He campaigned on 100 years in Iraq.
He campaigned on staying in Iraq 100 years and bombing Iran.
You're asking why I accepted the nomination to
I'm just wondering, you're sitting here saying you're against war abroad, and I just want to remind younger viewers at home, you ran with the most warmongering senator of my lifetime.
And you're asking why I ran for vice president.
I don't know why she's on there. She's getting absolutely decimated by these people. I think it's time for her to hang it up. Holy shit.
Into the United States
I know why you ran. You wanted power. I'm just saying why you're not consistent.
I mean, to be fair to Palin, Vance accepted the nomination, and he said that Trump could be America's next Hitler. So, I mean,
All right, let me try and be a little fairer to the ex-governor, because she's on her own getting attacked by three brutal males.
I wanted to talk about energy and America's
finish your point.
What you said was false about energy. Facts matter too. America has record energy production right now.
No.
It does. People can Google it right now and see
I said that on day one, what the Biden administration did was halt so much of our exploration and our construction of pipelines. And
I'm not a fan of that, by the way. I think we should have less energy production.
You lied.
I'm a critic of Biden on his energy production.
You're a liar. You lied.
I'm a liar.
Yes, and you said...
Dave is campaigning for a third party? Oh, is that do people actually try to do that anymore? Like, holy fuck.
No, Biden didn't do that. Yes, he did. On day one...
Do you know he handed out more licenses to Trump? Do you know that?
I'm making the point that you denied. My point is true.
Just he said energy's higher and you said no. So if anyone lied, you did.
Listen.
People can DVR it, they can rewind it and see you saying a false statement.
Let me ask you.
So you don't
energy production higher. Is energy production higher today?
You don't think that Biden
is energy production higher under Biden than Trump?
And you just
is energy production higher, Sarah Palin? It's a very simple question. I know facts are not your strong point. Is energy production higher today under Biden than under Trump? It's a simple yes or no question.
You're an obnoxious...
See,
facts don't care about your feelings.
Are Americans wrong when they have this feeling? Well, the feelings
I'm obnoxious because I asked you if energy production is higher today than under Trump.
You're obnoxious because I'm asking you why you would say that Biden didn't thwart...
You're a racist. We want to play that game? You said Obama is not born in America. He's not one of us.
I said that?
Yeah, you said Trump is doing a great job asking for his birth certificate. You said he's not one of us. You said he jives and schmucks. Should we go down the record? You're going to call me obnoxious? Why don't you talk about your racism?
Yeah.
Why don't you talk about your racism?
Why do you
said black lives matter protest to the dog.
Oh my God, she really should not have come on here because I think that these people are different from the typical. I don't know. They usually will. They're here to debate. They knew who they're coming on with, and they came on with ready to swing. And now she looks like a fucking idiot the entire time. She's pretty much just here as a laughing stock. What's happening here?
Should we go down?
I
Should we go
said
down?
they're
All right,
dogs.
all right,
You're
let's
a
go.
liar.
All right,
She's
let's-
getting absolutely packed up the entire time. She shouldn't have underestimated them, because you know that like when they come on, I know Destiny specifically. He has going to look into everybody before he comes on. This guy is very, I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he seems to be very intelligent. They're going to look into everybody that they're talking to and they're talking about, and they're going to look up all your past, and they're going to bring them out at opportune moments if they feel like they need to, which is what's happening right now. And now she's getting packed up. She's getting absolutely packed up. She's getting decimated here. You should have had like your team or whatever. I don't know if she has a team or how it works, but you should have you should have done your due diligence here and maybe put a little effort into looking into who the fuck you guys are talking to, because you're getting absolutely washed out right now. This is insane.
Show me where I ever said that
This guy's Mehdi Hassan. He's a smart guy. So
It's funny you
protesters are
didn't deny the
dogs.
Obama. You say Obama's shocking judge.
You're a liar.
Mehdi, if you get the governor on your show, which is, I would say, unlikely as things stand, if you do, you can continue the prosecution. Let me just segue to this, though, because it's
I
interesting.
called people dogs who were protesting in
believe you.
America.
I
You're a
believe you.
liar.
Did you question Obama's birth?
Oh my goodness!
Did you
are
say he's
right.
not one of us?
You know, based
Did you say he's
on
palling around
that-
with terrorists?
Based on that, we were talking about Bill Ayers at the time and how
So you stand by
Obama
that?
had kicked off.
You're standing by Obama's terrorists?
she's starting to admit it now.
Entire. Oh my goodness! I can't believe
Did
you
you say
even
he's
have
not
a
one
show.
of us?
If you,
Did you say Obama's not one of us?
I still want to know.
Oh, Destiny puts the clip up of her calling them dogs on his channel. That's insane. Really?
This proof that you have of me calling protesters in America dogs.
I believe you've heard Black Lives Matter protesters. Is that
I
right? If I'm
believe
wrong,
you
I'll
are
happily
wrong.
withdraw
All
that
right,
comment.
we'll fact check after this. I want to ask you this, mate.
If that's real, I imagine that would be on Destiny at the beginning of the video. Destiny, hold on, let me just. It would be at the beginning of Destiny's video covering this or whatever. No, would it not?
Let's turn to war, because that should calm down the debate. Destiny, look, obviously a pretty consequential election in many ways. I mean, it's got
See
country,
if I can find it. It's got to be in this video.
because you're being very vocal and taking on... Sorry, Palin.
I mean, I got called obnoxious for pointing out energy production levels.
I
so
don't
yes.
think you would win a court case about
No,
not being
you're
obnoxious. But
obnoxious.
let's move on. Let's move on.
Biden not thwarting our
I can also be
exploration and
obnoxious before you
development.
just play the water battery. Let me just ask you this, though. Given that you believe Trump is a racist who's holding neo-Nazi style rallies and so on, why is it that he's gaining significant ground with black and Latino voters? Why would they gravitate to a man who is literally, in your eyes, the new version of a Nazi?
It's a good question. I think because minority communities are not monoliths. I'm having the same issues in my own Muslim community where a lot of Muslims, not a lot, but some Muslims are actually going to vote for Trump because they're upset about Gaza. They think he's the peace candidate. And I think people have different reasons. I think we can make generalizations about entire communities. I'm not going to make generalizations about
it is
black
incredible.
or
You have the
Latino
you
votes.
have a-
Although I think it's slightly exaggerated. There's an ABC poll that came out on Sunday.
You have a woman...
Yeah, there's
black-
an ABC poll that came out on Sunday that shows Harris is doing better with black and Latino men than Joe Biden did in
Yes,
2020.
but the significant thing, Dave, is that his Trump's own popularity with black and Latino voters is significantly increased.
What is that popularity? What are the numbers are we talking here? Are we going from like 11% to 17%?
I think
or
I
what is
read
it?
on African Americans, it's something like from about 4 or 5% to nearly 20%. That's significant.
It depends on what polls you look at.
Yeah.
And again, like we'll figure out in, well, I guess it might take us a few weeks before we have this data, but we'll see what actually ends up happening on the election day. There is something very interesting about the fact that if you look at the aggregate of the polls, Trump's support amongst minorities seems to be going up. There is, at least on the surface, that seems kind of funny given how he's being covered in the corporate media. I really do think that a lot of the there's kind of like the progressive cultural worldview is often very disconnected from what people in these communities actually care about. I think the fact that I think personally there's actually a lot of things that appeal to certain people in these communities that Donald Trump, just in his personality, but I really do think that if you ask them, it all is coming down to the same two things that it's coming down to for most voters, which is immigration and the economy.
Yeah.
These are the two big issues
Definitely.
across all the polls.
It is, I mean, whatever side of this you're on with Trump, it is fascinating that somebody who, many on your side believe is this appalling racist and everything else, that he is increasing support in minority groups. Why
I'm not
is
certain talking because black people and Hispanic people and Asian people and white, we're not fundamentally different. You can appeal to people using certain talking points. Like, I hate that I'm saying this, but like Dave said, I agree that, that talking about immigration and inflation, that's a thing that plays to a lot of communities, especially if you're a poor community, especially if you don't have as much money. These are things that are probably hitting you the hardest. Now, the issue where the rubber meets the road is that while Trump will talk about inflation, while Trump was running for president, he ran huge deficits in a great economy. There's no reason for it. At least Biden has an excuse to run deficits. We're coming out of a global pandemic. And Donald Trump's every single policy that Donald Trump is talking about will increase inflation. It's going to. Who do you think? Do you think that I'm going to care if my coffee costs $10 or $15 because of tariffs? It's not going to bother me. It's not going to bother anybody sitting here. It's going to bother the very same communities that are trying to vote for him because they're worried about things like inflation.
Maybe we should just let Trump win. Just let him win, and let him fail. And then people are like, wow, we really fucked up that one.
And the policies themselves don't even make sense, right? What do you think is going to happen when we deport 12 million workers, or when we deport however many people Donald Trump wants to, or when we, cut immigration even harder at the border, right? Donald Trump will simultaneously say, we're shipping all of our factories to Mexico because they're making cars down there, but we want to ban all the people from coming to the United States to make the cars. It doesn't make any sense.
Allow me to remind you of my favorite statistic, which is...
I don't care about Obama. Obama is not running for president, so I don't know why.
You're ahead of me, but let me do it anyway.
I've heard it, the deporter in chief.
My favorite stat.
It doesn't matter. All it proves is that Trump is a liar when you say he ran on immigration, because Obama was already deporting a ton of people.
The single greatest deporter of people in American presidential history, pro rata, per year, was Barack Obama.
So would you say that Trump was lying when he said that the Democrats were bad on immigration?
Over 3 million in 8 years.
Yeah, so would you say that Trump was lying when he said that Obama...
Well, listen, there's a difference between saying, hey, we should deport people, which I don't think is necessarily bad if it's done correctly, versus deporting everybody. And isn't that one of the things Trump, the concept of a policy or whatever, he just wants a mass deportation. Mass deportation isn't really a good idea. We are dependent to some degree on illegal immigration in America. I think we should stop illegal immigration, but people who are here, we're already dependent on the economy. Whether it's them working jobs that other people don't want to work, whether it's on or off the books, which, by the way, if you want to get some of these people out of here, it wouldn't make sense to punish business. Or the reality is some of them on welfare services. Like when you're on a welfare service, you're still stimulating the economy. It's the reason why we implemented welfare services in the first place. I'm not saying we should have a bunch of people on them, but now that they're on them, the economy is dependent onto it to some extent. If we had a community of people and everybody got pulled off their welfare, whether they were deported or not, that's going to drastically reduce the amount of money that's circulating through the economy. These poor people are getting money, or these people on welfare are getting money, whether they're legal or not, and then they're taking that and they're spending it on food, transportation, whatever, fucking porn mags, I don't know, whatever they're spending it on, and that's putting money into the economy and circulating it through. So a mass deportation would have a radically negative impact on our economy. It's more about trying to disincentivize people from coming here now and dealing with that issue. And a lot of that is that there are people who are here on overstayed visas, which is a huge problem. But again, we're very dependent onto those people in our economy to some extent. That's why, more progressive states are more in defense of protecting illegal immigration because they have a lot of people that are here that didn't renew their visas, and we're now dependent on them. It's a very complicated problem, but that would be drastically negative for the economy. Thank you so much for the small gov on YouTube from Kitty Cat MUA. I appreciate that.
Obama was bad on immigration.
No, I'm simply saying.
I'm curious. Would you say that Donald Trump and the Republicans lied when they said that Obama had an open border?
There is so much.
Palin has probably said that Obama had an open border. Did they lie when they said that?
Call her Mrs. Palin. Be respectful.
Mrs. Palin.
Mrs. Palin.
Did Obama have an open border?
Hang on. Do you think Donald Trump's going to win in a week?
I do. And I think that.
I hope not. What a terrible 4 years it's going to be. Absolutely terrible.
Underestimating the wisdom of the people, the collective here in the electorate, people saying we do need a change from what we have just witnessed for 3.5 years, going on 4 years now, and
things are going pretty well, honestly.
Kamala will perpetuate, she will continue what the Biden administration.
What do you think, Trump clearly has something. I'll use this word and it's going to enrage these two. I don't mean it in the sense of fantasy magic, but he's got a magical touch which allows vast numbers of people to gravitate to him. I saw it last night, not just in the...
He's charismatic. That's literally all it is. He's a charismatic person. That's what it boils down to. And people are disenfranchised with the government. They're very frustrated with the government and the representation that they've been having. And so Trump is able to take a hold of that and take advantage of people for that. I mean, not to be too comparative to Hitler, because I don't think he's quite as bad, but it's the same thing with Hitler. People were extremely frustrated with the government and also the world because they were extraordinarily financially destroyed, and somebody was able to come in and be like, hey guys, I'm your savior, I'm your hero, these are the bad guys. Trump doing that basically with Democrats at this point. Et cetera, et cetera. And then he gets voted into power, and then things start shifting rapidly in a very negative direction.
Square Garden, outside of tens of thousands of people trying to get in, right? So he's got something. I saw Jonathan Karl on ABC this morning saying, whatever you think of it, he said, I can't think of a single Republican nominee ever who could have packed out Madison Square Garden at this stage of a campaign in Democrat-dominated New York.
Well, just to be clear, Long Island is not Democrat-dominated. That's where the people are from. It's people from Long Island coming here that are or that went there and they were like, oh my God, I love him so much. That's what it is. It's probably full of a bunch of obnoxious Italians. Let's be absolutely real.
Popular. Has Trump popular?
I'm just saying this is what ABC's Jonathan Karl said, not me, right?
He's going to win New York.
No, but you know what? He's going to do very much better in New York than people would have expected. And I do think there's a potential that Trump could do a massive sweep of all the swing states. I do. And I think he might also win the popular vote, which would be extraordinary, given where we think.
Yeah, it'd be extraordinary, considering we haven't had a Republican win the popular vote in a very long time. But thanks to that DEI of that system, unfortunately, the people don't actually get to choose. It's fucking, because it's a form of a DEI initiative that we've implemented for conservatives so that they're allowed to potentially have a psychopath win the election. by making it so that if you are a conservative or in a poor state in general, but your vote's gonna matter more. So Jesus Christ.
Things are. I'm also reminded, Mehdi, that in the 2020 election, Trump got nearly 10 million more votes than the first time around in 2016. So, notwithstanding your own very deep-rooted views about him, there is something, as I say, magical in his ability to bring these people to him and believe in him, right? It may be a magic that he hates and he hates.
I mean, there is
something
other
about
speakers
it.
in history
I
of
saw
that
it last
magic,
night. There was a third.
Yeah, most of the liberals in the New York are in the actual city. Yeah.
There is a fervor about his support, which is tangible.
Magic.
Yeah.
Well, I think if you take away the checkbook and the bank account, right?
Not just New York City, like Manhattan too, stuff like that. Yeah. The boroughs, rather, all the boroughs
that Trump is owner of. You can ratchet down what it is that he stands for and the way he speaks and the connection that he has with people that covers all demographics. He's like a regular person, and I know that personally, and we've been friends for many years. Before he became a bigwig in politics, we became friends because he had a connection with me through family. He saw what
Did you have sex with him or something?
the press was doing to me, the media was doing to me back when I was a governor, when they were attacking
Trump is truly magical, incredible.
kids, and they were on a national level. They were telling lies about my administration, my record, my reputation.
There's a good number on the line, but LI is definitely turning Republican. LI is not turning more Republican. Long Island is very Republican. Long Island has always been very Republican.
And Trump started reaching out to me back then, saying, "Hey, hang in there, and it's tragic what they're doing to your kids. That's not fair." So we connected over that, and then through these years, that connection has grown. I see firsthand how he is.
Why is she trying to be relevant again? I'm not really understanding. Like, what is the whole thing going on? Is she even in office or?
Able to reach out, and there is charisma there, the way he is able to reach out and make connections. He speaks like the everyday man.
Yeah.
People think that's perhaps uncouth, and
Well, yeah, it is uncouth to speak like the everyday man, especially since he's not speaking like the everyday man. He speaks like the everyday man behind closed doors. People that's the problem, and is that's not good. Like, I say some wild shit, offline, which everybody does, but I understand that that's not a particularly intelligent way to talk online, right? So I have some fucking decorum.
may not have some kind of pedigree that some people would desire to see in him, but that mirrors kind of the general population in America, where, again, take away the checkbook, take away the money, and he can connect to the everyday man.
Mehdi, who's going to win?
Christ.
Putting aside who you want to win,
know.
who's going to win?
I don't know.
That means to me you think he's going to win.
Yeah, of course he could win. I've said that to anyone.
But the fact you don't know means
Of course he could win. He's neck and neck in the polls, which probably means he's leading. If you're neck and neck in the polls, Trump support is often understated in the polls.
Yeah.
So I think Democrats should be panicking. Yeah.
He did better in 2016 and 2020 than he was polling.
Yes,
right.
which is
so now I don't know.
Although I would say there's half.
Well, the 2016 one was because Comey decided to come out with the whole nonsense right before the election, so kind of gave Hillary a big down on that one.
A million Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania. I'm sure the Democrats can.
Dave, let me ask you, Dave, who are you going to vote for?
I did not vote for Trump in 2016 or 2020, and I've been basically just as of this week being like, I might actually vote for him this time. And just to be
This is the time? I would understand how you voted for him last time, but this is the time? What?
clear, it is totally just a vote against Kamala Harris. I was so disgusted at her campaigning with Liz Cheney and going on this tour of like trying to, rehabilitate the image of the Cheneys. And I'm so disgusted at the fact that I've never seen a campaign like Kamala Harris.
What about the whole trying to overthrow the government thing? That didn't really do it for you?
Harris before, where the one that was literally running on nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, not even like running on bad idea. Well, listen, I don't think it's not literally true. But what I'm saying, obviously, is that she ran a campaign for president in 2020. She has walked away from every central issue that she was campaigning on in 2020. When asked about it, she says, "That was 5 years ago." Like that's her. There's
defund
no
the police.
I
don't want to defund the police.
I'm not for that.
Ban
My values
fracking. I don't want to ban
changed.
fracking.
My values haven't changed. It was 5 years ago.
Trump did a 3-hour interview with Joe Rogan and lied like 50 times.
I mean, we have a person who tried to insurrect the government.
Let me but just be clear, you are going to vote Trump.
He could say something that disgusts me so much in between now and when I vote that I might not like. If he's every time
nothing he said last night disgusted you.
I didn't actually watch the full speech last night, but this stuff, anything on the topic of Israel is probably going to risk losing my support for him. But I do think that there is something about the Kamala Harris campaign that is almost like a completely manufactured campaign by the machine. She's not running on what she ran on last time she ran for president. She's not running on her track record as vice president because she's not Joe Biden.
Yeah.
And so I just find it like I'm so disgusted by it.
Destiny,
that I want it to lose.
Will you be voting Trump?
Absolutely not.
Will you vote for
kind of a
Kamala Harris
question is that?
with great enthusiasm?
Absolutely, 100%. Trump is one of the,
You really
the
believe
most
she's the one?
appalling thing. Yeah, of course. I was promised communism after 8 years of a foreign Kenyan person being in office, Obama, and that didn't happen. I was promised communism, socialism, and all my guns were going to be gone. I lived in Omaha, Nebraska, and every time a Democrat was up for office, you need to come down to Ammo's R Us and buy guns. They're going to take them. It never happened under Biden. The United States economy is outperforming every other economy in the world right now under Biden's policies that ostensibly Harris will continue. She will most likely continue these policies. The idea that Trump, and also the hilarious thing of Kamala's running on nothing. Trump is running on tariffs, and deportation.
Okay, but let me ask you a different question.
Mass deportation.
Who do you think is going to win?
I have no idea.
Is
By the way, that's my answer too, essentially.
That they got though,
Almost, yeah.
would you have rather seen some competition to allow the cream to rise?
I
Would
think
you
it would
have
be much
would you
better.
rather seen Trump accept a debate with any of the other people, with DeSantis or any of the other Republican
I
candidates? who are running?
love debate, and
Well,
I
he
love
actually-
Wait,
In a way-
where
in a way
were
he
the
did.
Republicans calling for? Did you call for Donald Trump to accept debates?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, because I didn't hear the Republican Party call for him much.
But the
It
truth
seemed-
is, he ran away with the nomination so fast and so aggressively, it was all over.
It's also like
Well, right, but then we wouldn't have, like, you guys were just criticizing that. One of the big criticisms of that Kamala was, like, he basically got the next in line from Biden. Well, it's like, okay, I get that, but they wanted Kamala to actually have to go up against people so that she would compete for it, and maybe this person would get it instead. It's like, okay, well, Trump didn't actually do fucking anything. He didn't have to debate with anybody. He refused debates, so by that logic, wouldn't you criticize him for that?
just for the entertainment value, I wanted to see Trump in those debates.
It's a scary world we live in when people want entertainment value out of politics.
Could have enjoyed watching him beat up Ron
The
DeSantis.
irony is
So, I don't know.
Kamala Harris actually beat him in their one debate, no question. But I think she's going to lose the election, and when she does, it will be because of cost of living and immigration. But look, I've got to leave it there. It's been a fantastically entertaining panel. In England, what we would do after such a lively exchange, we'd all go and find the nearest pub and have a few pints and put our differences aside. I'm not expecting you to do that, but I do appreciate you all coming on Uncensored. Thank you very much indeed.
Incredible. What a beautiful moment. All right, good stuff, man. I don't know what else to say.